everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Between Sessions with Berries. I am excited to have our guest today, Sindee Gozansky. I'm going to read her bio, but let me just say, Sindee is a dear friend of mine. Actually, I've known her for a very long time, and I'll probably interweave a little bit of our history into this podcast. But Sindee, I'm so excited to have you here today. I want to read your bio because you do so much. You're so amazing. It's a long one, y'all, so bear with me, but I feel like all of this is necessary to say. So Sindee Gozansky, LCPC, is a seasoned therapist with over 19 years of experience. From her early days in community mental health to owning a Simple Therapy LLC, a thriving group practice in Maine, Sindee blends clinical excellence with a passion for accessible mental health treatment. Her commitment extends to mentoring the next generation of therapists, serving as an internship training site for over 6 years. Sindee believes in the transformative power of being a heart-centered and leading with love in her practice, which shapes our experiences at the intersection of psychotherapy, spirituality, and real-life encounters. She's passionate about supporting mental health recovery journeys and facilitates these conversations on her podcast, A Simple Therapy Podcast. She also owns Mental Health Threads, an online Etsy shop promoting mental health awareness and therapist identity. She's passionate about expanding the ways we can support mental health for all. Sindee, oh my gosh, I'm so excited to have you here.
Thank you so much, Kim. That was a little overwhelming, but thank you so much.
When you hear it out loud, I know. I mean, but you do so much amazing things. And I'd like to just say before we get into it, as I said in the beginning, I've known Sindee for quite some time. And I actually had the privilege of, when I was visiting Maine, as I live as a digital nomad, my boyfriend and I were up in Maine for about 3 months or something. We got to go see Sindee. I got to see her. I got to go to her group practice. I got to meet her clinicians. I got to sit in on a group supervision. I guess that's what you would call that meeting we did,
Yes.
a group supervision. And I was blown away. After I left, I messaged Sindee and I was like, your level of expertise in guiding these therapists through like this clinical journey of how to handle these situations literally blew my mind. Like, you were so observant and so helpful, and like the level of depth, I never had that in supervision. So I was amazed by that too. So when I knew you're coming on to be a guest today, I was like, we've got to talk about just this journey that you've been on, where you went from solo practitioner to group practice owner to supervisor to helping not only like pre-licensed, but the interns before they even get their master's degrees, right? You've got interns coming in
Yes.
that way too, and you're helping them that way. So I would love to just talk about this whole journey and help other clinicians listening that might be in those places, like they're early in the journey, they're maybe not even licensed yet, or they're working on pre-licensure. Let's talk about all of it, please.
I love that. It's such a pleasure to talk about that, and to also remember that time it was, group team supervision. And, you're right. At that time, Kim, we had some fairly new clinicians, like within their first year of licensure. Mm-hmm. And I remember that. Of course, I was a little nervous having you there, but that's also part of what I really share with whomever I'm working, because we have to get comfortable with somebody else in the room, whether it's a physical person or family background or some kind of energy. That's really a part of it. And I remember we were talking about some kind of difficult couples issues, and, gently challenging some of the therapists and the ways that they might be approaching how they work. Yeah. So, yes, I love to talk about that, because it just really hones in on that journey from student to associate, conditional resident, whatever you call it in your state, to therapist, and then all of the other iterations. Not to mention that Kim and I were able to go out to dinner. We treated you guys to lobster, and we went to Crescent Beach, and we saw beautiful Maine lighthouses. And so you have to come up again. Yeah.
Oh, I would love to. Oh my gosh, I loved it. It was so much fun, and we didn't have enough time there really to be able to do everything I wanted to do with you. Right. So let's talk about the supervision of somebody that's maybe, I guess, do you see people that are still in their undergrad, or is it just basically in their master's program? They haven't become pre-licensed yet, but they're working through their master's program. Let's maybe start there.
Absolutely.
And how you help them. What's the skill set there? Like, where's the development that you're doing with that level of intern? And this is for clinicians maybe that want to get into this too. Yeah.
Right, right. And we need more supervisors. We need more internship sites. And I don't think it's just in the state I live in, but across the board. And some of that is I could get on my like soapbox around the education system for counselors and social workers, but there's still such a high need for greater education, supervision, field experiences. And most of the time, the internships are unpaid, the site supervisors are unpaid. So if I take on 4 master's level counseling students, I'm not
Yes.
paid for anything for my office space for them, for the time that I supervise them individually. They need 1 hour a week. They need a group supervision. They need,
Wow.
answers on the fly when they're in a crisis and,
Mm.
helping them procure clients and all of that, the marketing piece. So there's so much. Why do I do it?
Yes.
And that comes down to, my deep love of like humanity, making the world a better place. Like this is like really foundational. And these students are the next generation to help people have more wellness, better mental health. We see the crisis of mental health in our country. And, I've heard people even say our country is sick. Well, who's going to help? Who's going to help them? And also, who's going to help the helpers? So this
Yeah.
is where supervision is so important because it's not just learning skills and interventions. It's also learning how are you going to manage the pain and sit with all of the pain and heaviness session after session, and then still go home to your family, your kids, your friends, your sports, whatever you're doing. So it's very broad, but at the heart is this desire to like really help people who are struggling. And we
Yeah.
all struggle. It's across like socioeconomic lines. It's across everything.
I love that so much. And I'm thinking the clinician that might be listening to this and they're like, okay, I probably may not have a lot of space for this, but I'm feeling a calling to helping that level of intern, even though I know I won't get paid, but I feel this like pull that I've got to, help develop the next generation of therapists, for free, my volunteer time. How do you even get into that? Like a clinician that's listening, how do you even like make yourself available for something like that in your state? I guess it has to be state specific, but
Well, it would have to be in the state or states in which you're licensed.
okay.
And again, I'm an LCPC, so I don't know about like this, the what is it called? The SIPAC,
Side
I don't know.
pact. Yeah.
We'll eventually have the counseling compact, and all of that. But for now, if you're licensed in one or more states, you could seek out the universities that have programs,
Wow.
for social work or counseling or LMFT programs and, offer yourself as a site. Some places need to have like a special type of, I don't know, it's like a contract, an agreement. But often once you have that, you're ready to go. I've also supervised students from like Capella, which is, not necessarily like based in certain states, but if the student is a Maine resident seeking Maine licensure, there you go.
What?
So I'm not supervising only from colleges in Maine, because actually we only have like 2 or 3.
Yeah.
Well, 3. But from like New Hampshire, once I had a couple students from a college in Colorado, from Goddard, from different colleges, as long as the student is in your state. That said, you can also look if you have like a Facebook group in your state of therapists, like we have some active groups like that. Post, hey, does anyone know if there's people looking for interns? I would love to host an intern.
Yeah.
And it's so rewarding. Yes, maybe it takes a lot of time and effort. You might get paid. I don't know. Places are different. But the reward is huge. You see clients saying, wow, thank you so much for helping me. I couldn't afford therapy. I have a high deductible, 5,000, 8,000. I can't
Wow.
pay for that. Or, I'm just in between Medicaid and whatever. And so the clients are grateful. The students have an amazing experience and then they get to work with you. And here's the thing about supervision. I get so excited about this, so I'm talking a little bit too much. But when you supervise, you become a better therapist because it's a parallel process. You're also saying, okay, this is what I think would be a really helpful move, or a way to like get in touch with what's activating you while you're sitting with that client. And then it's like ding, ding, ding. When I'm in the room as a clinician, I got to take my own advice too.
I was just thinking that. It's like, how many times have I fallen into this path of just like, I do the same thing with all my clients, and I even lose my own clinical self-awareness. So I was just thinking that. That's amazing. Right.
And when we have a group like you witnessed, it's so great because people can learn from each other. And there's a little less of, kind of like that being in the spotlight, because you're sharing the whole experience, which I think is really helpful. Both things are great. Currently, I have a couple of master's level students. I've had 4 at one time in the past, which is a lot. I have agreed to take 4 again next year, which I was trying to fight, but someone kind of sweet talked me. And here's the thing: if you're passionate and you realize like, okay, I could help this person and I know that's going to reverberate, why not?
I love that. Yeah. I mean, just knowing you're doing it for like the greater good. Yeah.
Yeah.
And this is sort of a business question or perspective, but I'm assuming these people, if they have a great experience, they may want to continue on with you through the next supervision level or licensure, working towards licensure hours and that sort of thing, and then work for you in your group practice. I don't know how often that transition happens, but is that like a good way to feed into a group practice if you need clinicians and you're trying to like bring on new clinicians? Okay.
100%. Yes. And so I love your entrepreneurial brain, Kim.
You know how my brain works.
It is. I admire it so much. I'm hoping as we have this talk, you'll give me another idea.
You're so funny.
Yes. And so some sites, are really geared toward that, to have, onboarding students and then kind of funneling them, if they're good candidates, into their group practice or supervisory capacity if they're doing private practice. What I will say is I've found that the individuals who are, associates, they tend to stay for their conditional or associate period, like 2 years.
Okay.
And then they get pretty antsy and they want to go out on their own, because again, it's how can we make more money and sustain ourselves? And unfortunately, our field is not very amenable to that at any point, right?
Yeah.
Private practice, insurance. I'm an insurance-based group practice. I want to say that because that's important. Accessibility, again, primary. But there are other options. Thank goodness there are other options now that I know you promote several of them, which are really great and give, counselors a way to like start to make a good living.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
I love hearing about that journey. So when somebody's like in their master's program still and doing their internships that way, and then they've graduated into this postmaster's pre-licensed area, is it a different skill set for a supervisor to work with those interns? Like maybe you're just doing basic skills with the early ones and then more advanced skills, or are you just always using that same skill set? Like I'm teaching the clinical skills throughout the whole process.
Great question.
Yeah.
Great question. I wish I had an easy answer. I think it varies a little bit from the individual. We're really seeing a mix of some very young students who, go right to their master's program after their bachelor's program. They're in their early 20s. And sometimes even just from, their life experience, they might need a different type of, clinical skills orientation and that sort of thing. Some of the older students can build off of maybe they've for themselves have already had 20 years of their own therapy versus a 23-year-old.
Yeah.
So, you're dealing with different, you're coming from like different strengths, which is great. And we learn so much from, the younger generation and what they see and what they can teach us. I will say that the skills that a lot of students get in the universities, like their counseling skills, they have like 1 class, maybe 2. They're lucky if they have a couples class or a family systems class. Very few get any kind of like human sexuality class. And so you're looking at trying to really round out basics beyond just active listening. I think one of the things I focus on a lot with both master's level interns and newly licensed therapists is gentle confrontation. How do you gently confront? People are often taught, oh, I shouldn't interrupt. Well, you need to interrupt. Oh, I shouldn't direct the session. If you're a couples therapist, you need to be directive. So again, these are things that I try to help them start to learn, as well as just slowing things down and letting go of, I have to do this right. I'm the imposter syndrome. Like that's huge. That's huge at every level,
Absolutely. Yeah.
every level. And how do you start to learn to trust yourself? And then this is where it really becomes also like personal and helping them with their own self-growth and development and their why. Why are you doing this? What's your reason? You're not going to fix the person, but you're going to be in this intimate space with your client. And how are you going to hold that space and use what happens there? Use the energy, use what comes up for you. You've got to use your countertransference. You've got to use the self of therapist. So I teach a lot about self of therapist as well,
I
all
love
across the
that.
board, all the
Yeah.
way up to people who have their license and they just want a consultation or something like that.
Oh, I love that so much.
Yeah.
So it's more about meeting them where they're at, pre-licensed, licensed, whatever, meeting them where they're at, and then helping them just develop those skills of being able to use yourself in the session, being aware of how you're processing, taking stuff in, and then being able to just use that energy to help direct sessions, no matter what's coming up. I mean, it's couples or children or who knows what that they're getting thrown into. Now, if a clinician comes in and they say, this, I want to be a couples therapist. As a supervisor, what do? Do you just like give them all couples, or do you say, yeah, we're not going to do that necessarily. I'm going to give you a skill set with all of these different types. I'm going to make you more of a generalist in the beginning, or is it better just to say, like, you know what you want, let's just dive into it, and I'm just going to try to give you clients like that? Like, how do you manage
Oh my
that?
goodness. I just got nervous hearing that
Oh, no.
because for real, because this
Yeah.
happens,
Yeah, I
right?
bet.
And so this happens and somebody comes, right? And they say, I want to be a couples therapist. They haven't had any couples training. They haven't taken anything. And yes, you're going to get for people listening, after you graduate, that's when you're going to really start to amass other things, other certifications, trainings, approaches, and you want to be prepared to know that like that's what you've got to do to then become more of, to develop some more mastery in how you're working with people. But I mean, this has happened. And a lot of times what I will do is try to kind of slowly onboard them. My favorite thing is to be able to offer them the chance to observe me doing a couple session or to sit in on something like that. It's great to like be able to watch film, but to see the therapist, sweating in her seat,
Yeah.
which happens. And, it's actually really good if you have like a not so great session. So, I mean, I can think now of having one of my interns, and often it's on telehealth because it's so much easier to have another little screen there and it's less intrusive to the couple. Of course, the couple has to agree to it and consent to it. And I say, look, it's to, help the student, help a therapist. And sometimes people are totally fine with that.
Yeah.
And, if it devolves or, they're like escalating, she gets to see what I do or what I don't do. And then we can unpack it afterwards. I did this. Another choice point that probably would have been better is this. And, so I can be honest. And what I'm modeling is we learn from doing. And you've got to take risks. And so that goes back to what you said. You meet them where they're at. And then you try. I find that I try to encourage them to take some risk. Move out of your comfort zone. Take a risk in how you might name something that's happening in the room, how you might confront them. Taking a different client. If you've never worked with somebody who, has a substance use disorder, don't be afraid. Take that. I'll help you, right? As long as you have mentors. And that's something that I feel like our newer generation really, I would love to see them have more chances to grow and take risks in this work because that's how we can serve more people instead of just refer out, like dive in.
Yeah, and to have a supervisor that's willing to throw you in and then be there right there to hold your hand if you need it.
Yeah. Well, I don't really throw anybody in.
Okay,
But
you're like, I don't do that. I just
and
ease
with
them
the
in.
couples,
Yeah.
I will do some trainings. I
Yeah.
also think, they really will benefit from recording their sessions, whether it's an individual or a couple. People are often resistant to this, but here's the thing. It's not about criticism or critique. It's just what I said. I, debrief and say, I should have done this. I would have liked to see if I said this, what would have happened. And we can do the same thing. Imagine if you're watching, like a therapy show on TV, like couples therapy, for instance, with the incredible Orna. I think, a lot of people are like really fangirls of her. Watch one and think, oh, she said this, what would I do? And that's the same thing we're doing on reviewing a recording. And it's really a way to have like a good type of dedicated, disciplined education.
Oh my gosh, that's amazing. It's amazing that you take the time to do this with all these students. It really is.
But doesn't it sound fun?
I don't know. I mean, I remember when you said you were going to start a group practice, and I was like, oh, I don't think I'd ever want to do that. But the people that do it, and you, I know, I mean, I just love the passion that you put into it and to helping these students. Yeah. I mean, I think it makes me, hearing you talk about it, it makes me a little anxious to think like somebody watching me doing therapy and then trying to like teach from my mistakes. Like that does make me a little anxious to think about it. But it's the best tool. It's got to be the best tool. Yeah. It really does.
Right. And we would just say, okay, you feel anxious.
Yeah.
Probably they're also feeling anxious, right? Like we can look at that. The other thing I'll say is it's also really beautiful when you've worked with somebody. And, I have examples. In fact, I have a lovely story to share.
Okay.
A card on my shelf. And I had this wonderful intern as a student. She had a couple sites. That's also a great thing. If anybody is a student right now, if you can split your internship in a couple different sites, you get a breadth of experience. And so I highly recommend that.
That's amazing.
Maybe you do a private practice, maybe you do a school or an art school, or you work with, a practice that focuses on family or kids or we have like Center for Grieving Children. It's a great other split with, say, a private practice.
Wow.
So I worked with her. She joined my group after she graduated. Amazing. She works with individuals and couples, really honed her couples work, did, some emotion-focused therapy, and was ready to go into her own private practice. She wasn't even fully licensed yet, but here in Maine, if you're conditionally licensed, you can have a private practice.
Oh, amazing.
It varies for state. So she starts her private practice and doing great. It's in a different town. I had an office in another town called Yarmouth and ended up having to leave that office. Well, guess what? She took over the lease and has this beautiful office in an historic building. And she just sent me a note and, shout out to Caitlin. I just love her so much. And she sent me a note and said, thank you for this journey. And, I just love how we're connected. So that's part of it. Humanity.
That's amazing. I just love hearing that. Because that was really my next question. It's like, if you know that they're going to take this journey with you, and then probably after they get licensed, they're going to get that private practice bug where they can make more money and do that sort of thing. Do you help with like the business mentorship, or do you just kind of let them go do their own thing? Is that something you're already planning on and sort of talking about, like, well, this is how we do the marketing for the practice? Like, you're already kind of teaching that in the back end, or is that something you just kind of stay out of when you're mentoring these students?
I love that question. I definitely do it with the students because I think that's really part of it. And they're having an experience in, a private practice setting or group practice setting. So often they might get a Psychology Today profile. They're fielding inquiries. They're, doing putting their clients in the EHR and stuff like that. So they're really getting that full experience. I would say when somebody is leaving, it can get a lot trickier. Yeah. Because they're just, it can vary with personalities, with, how the departure goes, things like that. But I think for the most part, I just try to be really transparent and, that's pretty much, I think it just varies.
Yeah. If they want to know about it, you're happy to walk them through that journey too, it sounds like to me. Yeah. That's amazing.
Yeah. Wow. And sometimes I will supervise somebody who's like they have their own private practice. And so they want me as a supervisor once a month or something like that. Then, 100%, I'm helping them with their marketing, with, what they need for the board, giving them referrals, that sort of thing.
Yeah. Oh, that's amazing. Oh my gosh. How cool.
Yeah.
So let's talk about something that comes up a lot. The listeners know this. This is hosted by me, but it's also part of Barry's that I'm the clinical consultant for. And I know Sindee knows them too. So I want to talk about that a little bit.
Yes.
But I do have a question for you around this and the AI piece and technology, because I run into this a lot. People will say, I run a group practice. I've got some seasoned clinicians, but I've got some students. And, I'm a little leery, like, should I let them use AI to write their progress notes and their treatment plans? Or should I, withhold that piece until they're more seasoned, they understand like the anatomy of a progress note or what a treatment plan really should be about? Do I hold off? Do I introduce it? Do I make it their lives easier from the get-go? Like, I just wonder your philosophy with that, with students and where they are in the journey, and then incorporating AI into the process. How does that go for you?
Yeah. I'd say it's evolving.
Okay.
And in part, my response is because a lot of the students I see, again, this is based on university curriculum and what they have time to teach. They're not so nuanced with diagnosis. And if you're running an insurance-based practice, you really need to make sure they understand diagnosis and the ins and outs of that. So I am leery at the beginning to have them using berries, even though I know it would make their life easier.
Of course.
And I think my ideal world would be to teach them, a basic, great, templated note, diagnosis, do the treatment plans, be able to create a really good assessment with medical necessity and all of that. And then once they prove to me they can do that, then we get, and I hope the Barry's people are listening, a sort of like student account that then they can use.
Oh, I like
So
this.
that would be very easy to like onboard them. That's my dream.
Nice. Ooh, I love that. We're gonna have to go
Yeah.
tell them about that idea. If you haven't already, you probably have.
I haven't.
Ah, that's a great idea. So like a training wheels in a way, like a little bit of AI, but not necessarily all the AI, or making them double check it and then having the supervisor sign off, like that kind of stuff.
Well, even just the idea that students typically won't see as many clients as a therapist in their own private practice. And even though Barry's is so generous with like the free version, we would still need a tiny bit more than that, but not like the full account.
Oh, gotcha.
You see what
Oh,
I'm
like a
saying?
student pricing. I see what you're
Yes.
saying. Oh, that's so smart. Oh, I'm definitely telling them right after we finish this.
Thank
You'd
you
be
so
like,
much.
y'all need to listen to the end of Cindy's podcast episode. So let's talk. Can we talk about berries for a minute?
Yeah.
Because you're uniquely, them intimately, like I do, a little bit more than the regular berries user would. So can we just tell the story?
Let's tell the story. And first, I want the listeners to know that all of the therapists in my group practice, and we're 10 now, we use
Wow.
berries. So everybody is using berries, and it's been amazing. And it is also related to the topic we're talking about, supervision and being able to show up for your clients. And it allows you to just be so present. And this is what is hard for new therapists and seasoned therapists when we're thinking about a million things, or like we were talking about, aging parents or something. Berries lets you be even more present. It's really huge. It makes me a better therapist. I believe it makes my clinicians a better therapist. It frees up our time. The documentation is better than we could do ourselves. So I love it.
I love it too. I mean, and this comes up almost every couple of episodes on this podcast. It's like being able to know that it's just taken care of in the background. I'm not having to like mentally like keep track of all the details that I know I'm going to have to document later. It is so freeing to just be like, okay, I hit the button and I can just be totally present and not even have to worry about that side of the business,
Yes. Yeah.
So I love hearing you say that. So
Yeah.
tell
And
us.
I use it for
Oh,
supervision as well.
I was just going to ask that. Are you using it for
know,
supervision?
they have some templates for supervision, and I've kind of created my own because I'm working a little bit more self of therapist, and you can do anything with berries.
That's amazing. So for supervision, you would have it maybe in a telehealth session with one of your supervisees and just
Yeah.
hit the berries button, record the whole thing, and then use the supervision template, and it turns it into like the perfect supervision note that you can
Yeah.
keep for documentation. Yeah, because that's the other side of supervision, right? You've got to like keep track of this stuff in hours and turn in summaries,
Right.
I would imagine, to the university or that sort of stuff, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a little different. It's really not as much work. So if somebody's listening, they want an intern, it's really not that much work for the university. It's more when somebody's licensed, just really,
Okay.
really keeping track. Yeah.
That's amazing. I
So,
love that. Yeah. Yeah. Very cool. So let's tell your story about how you know berries and all that good stuff. I just love this whole story here.
well, I was introduced to it, even though Kim and I, are friends and colleagues. I was introduced to it because Tal, one of the founders, reached out to me on LinkedIn, and I seldom even go to LinkedIn. I know I need to use it more.
So funny.
And then, I connected with him and just really loved it. Found out that they're in Israel, and my husband and I were going on a trip. And so we arranged it, and I had the amazing privilege of meeting Tal and Yuval, the founders of Berries.
Oh my gosh.
They're so amazing. They're really great, fun. We think they're all techie, but they're really fun. We talked about basketball because it was like NBA championships. Also, these two guys are like super tall, and I'm 5'3". So I have
Oh
a
my gosh.
picture where I'm here and they're here.
I
And
saw that picture, Cindy. I was like, are you kidding me? Because I meet with them all the time, right? But they're sitting, and I had no idea they were that tall. And Cindy looks like just this little cute
yeah,
thing between these two like giant guys. I just love
yeah,
that picture so
yeah.
much.
And this is the beauty of connection, right? It's this amazing resource. And yet we've also, become friends. I mean, with the war that they've had, I've been able to check in on them and express my concern, keep in touch with things that are going on in their world. They're open to so many suggestions,
Oh.
and it's just been amazing.
Oh my gosh. And now, we should do a little plug. They're in development. They always tell me to say we're in development for turning berries into a full EHR, which is super exciting. And before Cindy and I hit record, she's like, I've been talking to them too about my ideas around like what would make the best AI enhanced EHR and things she doesn't love about her current EHR maybe, and that they could do a lot better inside of berries. So it's cool to hear you're helping with the development, especially with this background with the supervision and giving ideas around students and that sort of thing, because that's definitely an area I don't think about.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
What I've really noticed is we need something that's also more client or consumer friendly, because that's what's so confusing on the client side. They get bizarre invoices and things are just too confusing for them. So love to see
Yes.
that
Yeah. That's
improved.
amazing. Amazing. We're almost out of time, but there's so many other things you do, like the entrepreneurial side, your clothing shop, all of that stuff. Can you give a little plug to like maybe your top 3 t-shirts that sell? Because you have so many
Oh,
cute t-shirts in the Etsy shop. Yeah.
thank you. Oh, thank you, Kim. Yes. So I have an Etsy shop that's for really mental health consumers, therapists, mental health advocates, anyone. It's called Mental Health Threads. And let's see, there are t-shirts and hoodies and hats and journals and, mugs. So like so many things. We have some of the best sellers are licensed listener, and then you can put your credentials under that. So you can personalize
Oh.
it with LCSW, LCPC, LMFT. That's a big seller. Another one that somebody actually told me they wanted was professional secret keeper. So we have that
Oh,
one.
that's a good one.
We have therapist mode off. We have go to therapy. That's a big seller. And a lot of, people are buying that because it's like, yeah, let's normalize therapy. So go to therapy is a big one. We have pride collection. We have a therapist collection. We have things for like EMDR. I think we have a mug that says go with that. We have a thing that says do your notes, but we don't need to worry about that, Kim.
I know we don't do it. I saw one the other day that I was like, "That's so clever." And this might be controversial for this particular podcast, but the shirt is like better than AI is what the shirt says. Like their
Yeah.
therapy is better than AI therapy because so many people are turning to chatbots or ChatGPT now to help with
Right.
therapy topics.
That's so cute. I
Yeah,
love it.
yeah.
Yeah. Also in my Etsy shop, and I'm trying to really expand this, I have things for therapists like supervision worksheets for the supervisee and the supervisor. I have some couples therapy, like kind of worksheets on helping them like figure out the cycle and what's going on with that. I'd love to offer your listeners a freebie of like student milestones, like checklist for new students and their milestones, and also for somebody who's in private practice and their milestones, because it's all about the journey. We're kind of talking about that. It's not just like, did you set up your bank account, but, first time you ran into a client in the grocery store or whatever.
Oh, that's so good.
Oh,
I can't
things
wait.
in real life.
I can't wait to include that. That's going to be so helpful. Thank you.
Thank you.
What a
Yeah.
nice
And I have
gift.
my podcast, a Simple Therapy podcast, which you get a flavor for who I am. I get lots of wonderful guests. That it's mostly for therapists. And I would love to invite people to join my Facebook group called the Heart-Centered Therapist Community on Facebook.
I love that. Oh my gosh, you're everywhere. Yes. So, of course, we'll put all this down in the show notes for you all, and Cindee's freebies that will help you in your journey. And go buy a t-shirt from her. I have a couple myself that I love. But Sindee, thank you so much for taking the time today. This was super helpful.